Everything is about to change. Over the last 23 years, I've made hundreds of millions of dollars building businesses and marketing them for some of the largest brands in the world, like Amazon, Adobe, and even Google. And it's clear to me that marketing that worked in the past will not work in 2025. So if I were starting from scratch today, here's what I would do to guarantee millions of dollars in returns on your marketing this year. First, the days of relying on just one platform to grow are behind us. Omnichannel isn't just a buzzword, it's a survival tactic for 2025. With Dropbox is referral incentives, in which if you tweet or share Dropbox on the social web, they'll give you more space because they're hoping your tweets, your posts will cause more Dropbox signups. And Yelp's dominance was through SEO. When you think about it these days, you can't just grow a company through SEO or email invite flows or a referral system. Those channels work great and they do help with growth a bit, but they won't create multi-billion-dollar companies like they used to. All of these channels are super and hyper competitive and they're saturated. The way to do well right now is to go omni-channel. Because if you look at consumer attention, it's fragmented across platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and even ChatGPT. Look at this chart when you leverage multiple platforms. The more platforms you leverage, when you look at 6+ channels, your ROI becomes higher, not just in total, but per platform as well. The way you can use this information in real life is to be omni-channel, especially on the social web. So if you post on Instagram, take that same short form video or image and post it on TikTok. You can also post it on LinkedIn. You can also post it on X. You can, in essence, take the same content and post it on multiple platforms. Even if you have long form content, you can take that long video and chop it up into short form clips. In essence, you're repurposing content. This way, you can make the most out of what you already have, and you can identify the 3 or 4 platforms where your audience spends most of their time. Then you can create a plan to post not just consistently, but tailor and adjust the content for each platform. Because what does well on LinkedIn doesn't always do well on Instagram or TikTok. And what does well on YouTube doesn't always do well on Facebook. So in essence, you need to adapt. But you shouldn't try to adapt from day one. You should just repurpose and post your content on all the platforms to see where your audience is and what they're engaging with, and then adjust from there. Search isn't just happening on Google anymore. It's everywhere, and your strategy needs to reflect that. 8.5 billion searches daily on Google, Instagram 6.5 billion, Amazon 3.5 billion. You look at YouTube, Pinterest, they're still getting billions of searches each and every single day. Heck, ChatGPT gets 1 billion+ searches a day. When you think about it, Google only gets roughly 18% of the daily searches on their platform. The rest are on all the other sites and platforms out there. In other words, Google isn't the dominant player like most people think when it comes to search. The key here is meeting people where they are. So instead of saying, hey, I'm gonna just optimize for Google, or I'm gonna just optimize for YouTube, you meet your customers where they are. One platform isn't better than the other. You wanna use each of them for what they are and meet your customers there to maximize your traffic, your engagement, your sales, and revenue. By doing this, you'll see faster revenue growth. When we look at my own company, NP Digital, we're one of the fastest growing companies or ad agencies to 9+ figures in revenue. The reason being is we didn't just rely on referrals or ads. We leverage referrals, ads, RFPs. We even leverage Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, not just Google, but also Bing and ChatGPT. We have gotten leads and companies hiring us because ChatGPT recommended our agency. And we vary up our content type. We have podcasting, we have blog posts, we have short form videos, we even have long form images like graphs. By doing this, you'll grow faster because people see your brand everywhere. 7 of the top 10 Google search queries are brand names. If you don't have a recognizable brand, you're invisible. Just look at Tesla. Most people find it by just Googling Tesla or going directly to the site. They have a dominance in electric cars. You look at Nike, they own a category. People think about athletic shoes, they just think Nike. Seth Godin had a quote, and it's an amazing quote. A logo is not a brand. A brand is a promise. If you want to build a brand, it takes time. 3 years to establish one, 10 years to solidify your brand. You need to be consistent in creating recognizable and trustworthy content. This will help you with your identity over time. Now, if you want to build and develop a clear brand story that highlights what makes you unique, you need to create a style guide for visuals and messaging and use it consistently across all platforms and content. This is a big mistake people make. They believe that, oh, I can just post this on Facebook and do a different style for Instagram. Well, People will be confused about your brand. You look at like Tesla, Nike, and Apple at consistency, no matter what country you see them in or even what platform you see them in. What's the biggest obstacle between your customers and a completed purchase? If you're not sure, you're leaving money on the table, potentially up to 18% of your revenue. A few years ago, I was on the phone with this lady from this company called Recurly. She's like, did you know Twitch made this change with us and it increased their revenue roughly by 16 to 18% per month? And I was like, really? What's the change? She's like, they just added PayPal as a payment option. This change required minimal effort, yet yielded significant financial impact. And I was skeptical about this change. So I made the change with one of our software companies called UberSuggest. No joke, after implementing the change, we saw roughly an 18% increase in new monthly revenue. And then from there, we started adding other options, Apple Pay, Google Pay. Heck, you can even do buy now, pay later with solutions like Klarna. Stripe did a report showcasing that if you do buy now, pay later, you generate roughly 14% extra revenue each and every single year. It's all these little things that add up. And as an entrepreneur or marketer or business person, you can't take these little things for granted. They all help you get an edge over your competition. This allows you to spend more on marketing and scale faster than your competition. And if you look why this really helps increase conversions, it's because of the change that Amazon made years ago, one click to purchase. Amazon set a new standard and people are expecting that. If you can't give them optionality and make it easier for them to purchase, you're gonna lose people. One of the hardest things to do in marketing is getting someone interested and wanting to buy from you. So once you get those people who are interested, remove friction and make your checkout process easy. And this is as simple as adding an additional payment option on checkout. The biggest companies in the world don't think local. They think global. When you think about companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft, what do they all have in common? Yes, they're gigantic companies, but they're global companies. They're international. Most people don't know this, but 80% of Apple's revenue comes from outside the United States. And Google, they have offices and data centers in over 200 cities across 6 continents. There's a huge untapped potential of emerging markets like Brazil and India. And most people think, oh, the great markets are UK, Germany, France, and they are amazing markets. They're competitive. Markets like India and Brazil, they're growing in population, they're booming, and there's tons of money to be made. And best of all, there's not as much competition. So here's what I would do if you want to break into the global marketplace. You first go and look at your traffic. You go to your website, your analytics. You then take the main countries and you go look up what's their GDP and what language do they primarily speak. Once you got a list of that, what you'll want to do is go take your content and have ChatGPT translate and transcribe it into the localized region. You can then use hreflang and put that within your source code of your website to tell Google, this web page right here, it's in Portuguese for people coming from Brazil. This web page over here is English for people coming from the United States. And by doing this and publishing your website in multiple languages based on your Google Analytics data, you'll quickly start getting more people from these regions visiting your website because you're already getting some. They'll have a better experience. So you'll find that your conversions and your revenue start going up. The single biggest lever in growing my companies to 9 figures was hiring people who have done it before, multiple times. There's a proven hiring strategy that I love leveraging. When you look for a candidate and you interview them, they always say, oh yeah, I was a breeze in this company grew. Look at all this marketing results that I got. Look at all this revenue I drove. Do you really know if they did or not? You can't call their boss and ask them because they're still working there. So the secret I use to really finding amazing talent, and this is what's caused a lot of my growth, is you go look for people who work for your competitors. Ideally 2 or more competitors. They needed to have to stay there for a while. And at each place, look to see if they continually got promoted. If they got promoted multiple times, it means the other company found them valuable. So if they worked at 2 of your competitors, they got promoted multiple times, it means other people found them valuable because they perform. So if they work for you, there's a good chance they'll perform for you as well. If you look at the CEO of NP Digital, his name is Mike Gullickson. He previously worked at 3 competing ad agencies. He helped them grow and sell multiple times. For example, he was at iCrossing, he climbed the ranks, he eventually ran operations, and that company sold to Hearst for over $400 million. He also joined Cavario, then got promoted as a co-CEO, and that company sold to iProspect. At iProspect, he started in operations and eventually became promoted to president. And iProspect, for reference, is an ad agency that employs more than 10,000 people. When you hire people with experience, you'll achieve your financial goals faster because they come to you with experience. This experience helps you avoid all the mistakes you would have made if you never hired them. Experience saves time, solves problems faster, it brings proven strategies to your business. Now, when you're hitting these people up, ideally I like using LinkedIn. But instead of saying, hey Mike, I love what you did at iProspect, please come and work for us, or hey, I want to talk to you about a job, if it doesn't work well, it's too direct. But when you hit people up, let's say I want to recruit Mike Gullickson for my prospect, I would send him a message saying, hey Mike, love what you did in your career, congrats on the success. I'm actually looking for someone like you. Do you know anyone you can recommend? And in most cases, they'll say, hey, I'm actually interested in this job. It's very indirect, and what you'll find is it converts much better than being direct. Speed and adaptability
are everything in marketing. If you're not testing, you're falling behind. This campaign lost me thousands of dollars. I had a colleague who was running ads for my ad agency at Be Digital. We're spending $900 per book call. I quickly realized that this campaign wasn't sustainable, and I canceled it within 24 hours despite it being a Saturday. I quickly launched a new campaign the same day and waited
for initial results to come through the next morning. That rapid iteration minimized wasted resources and it maximized my ROI. Within a few days, I was able to improve the numbers so much, I was able to get the cost per call down to less than $200. Still not optimal, but much better than paying $900. You want to monitor what you're doing in business, whether it's marketing or sales, and have a quick feedback loop. By having that, you can continually test and iterate, avoid catastrophic failures that are going to cost you a lot of money, and iterate faster so you can get a leg up on the competition. I've made more mistakes than I can count, but those mistakes are the reason for my success. If you can't do this, you're guaranteed to fail in marketing. When I was starting off, I always looked for shortcuts that didn't take much energy to make money, and it usually backfired. For example, when I was a young kid, I found expired domain name that was for a war that happened, and this domain name had a lot of other websites linking to it. I purchased it, added casino related content, started ranking for online casino, was making money, but it didn't last long at all. And I was #1 on Google, literally for a few days, for the term online casino. Eventually, the site got banned. Moral of the story is, when I was starting out, if I thought long term about everything that I was doing in business and marketing, I would have made much more money and built a much bigger empire. Yes, it would have taken me a little bit longer to make money, but that money would have lasted and compounded and made me much more over time. That's when I realized that shortcuts may yield the fastest results, but they aren't always sustainable. This is why in today's world, I focus on long-term strategies. I would have achieved more sustainable growth if time had been invested in more legitimate, long-form tactics from the start. I recommend that you do the same. An ego can block your learning, but just because you think you know something doesn't mean you can't get better. There's always ways to improve. There's always new tools and trends to watch out for. Platforms evolve, and you can learn from anyone, even if they're just brand new to the space. But the real key is that I've learned from all my mistakes. When I was starting off, I failed a lot, and I kept failing. And I quickly realized I was making the same mistakes over and over again. I started keeping a log of all my errors and made mistakes. And then I even wrote down what I would do different the next time I was in that same situation. Eventually, I taught myself to not make the same mistake over and over again. This led me down a path of focusing on the stuff I should be doing, which is what has led to a lot of my success. The next time you fail, don't beat yourself down. Look at it as a learning experience, and eventually you'll start focusing on the things you should be doing.